Hi everyone. Now, electric vehicles. I've been doing a fair bit on electric vehicles over the last little bit, and it's mainly because I've purchased this Tesla. But to be honest, there are a few things I'd just like to address when you're driving them. So in today's video, we're going to have a look at how I drive, how you drive like a driving instructor in an electric vehicle. The first thing I'd like to talk about is the regen braking. I haven't got a foot cam installed on this car yet, but I will do. And to be honest, it's the regen or one pedal driving that I could probably do with doing a separate video on and explaining how it works. But that's the first thing that I've found driving an electric vehicle. It gets a fair bit easier quite quickly, but getting used to that one pedal driving is quite important. Backing off the accelerator, I'm going to be careful calling it the gas now. It's still going to be used in driving instructor circles as the gas pedal, even though it's electric. But once you come off the accelerator, the effect of slowing down is quite dramatic. So much so that you rarely need to use the brakes. Now, not all electric cars are in this way, but a fair few of them are taking this way of doing things. I personally think it's pretty good. It is quite fuel efficient because it just encourages you to use only the acceleration that's required. For example, there I didn't touch the brake pedal whatsoever coming in towards those lights. So it is fuel efficient or electricity efficient. It makes your car up on the efficiency sort of like gauge, and it is like I said, a little bit strange when you first get into it, but I've not found it a big deal. There are a few things that people have asked me regarding electric vehicles, and the first one I'd just like to deal with is the speed. Now, people have moaned that the speedo is here on the Tesla. For me, it's not an issue whatsoever because I actually rarely use the speedo. I know that seems probably mad for many people, but I rarely use the speed. I drive at a speed which is suitable. I've just tuned myself in and just plumbed myself in all the time to be not breaking speed limits, so it's not an issue for it not to be directly in front. But regarding your speed in an electric vehicle, how do you gauge what you're doing? Well, you listen to it, and this is one of the skills that people do struggle with when they are driving vehicles. They don't use their ears enough to manage speed, and I've found it not to be a big problem. There's something I'm going to go on to regarding this particular car shortly, regarding my speed, because I've been a little bit fast in this car. But management of speed should be done with ears, and you can even do it quite successfully in electric cars. There's less sound, but it's still significant enough that you can sort it out comfortably. There's road noise from the tyres. It's just a different sort of sound that you're listening for, but I've not found it a problem whatsoever. So speed, management of speed, that's the first thing sort of like in my head tick list that I'm going to get through. The next thing is what I just mentioned about my speed coming into things. I have found, especially when I first got this car, the acceleration is a little bit addictive. You've got to be super careful because that instant torque and pulling power will just whoosh you away quite quickly, and because it is that quick. There are a lot quicker cars, and this is the slowest one of the Model 3s, but there's still loads of power. I think about 300 horsepower, and that torque is instant. So it's not like even when you're driving an automatic car, you may think that you've got instant go. Most of the time you haven't. It takes either the torque converter gearbox or a normal dual clutch transmission. It takes it time, not very long, but it does take a little bit of time to get you off and going, whereas in an electric vehicle it is instant, so you have to be super careful. But now I've just given a sort of like brief overview of a couple of things regarding the car. I'm just going to do a little bit of a drive with this electric vehicle. I'm going to try and do a little bit of commentary specific to an electric vehicle as well. So I'm going to try and make it relevant. Not saying I'm not going to cover any of the bits that I've done in other videos in this series, but I am going to try and make it quite relevant. So first thing, again, I've not used the brake since I set off from mine, and to answer people's questions who don't know, at a certain level the brakes or the brake lights do illuminate at the back of the car. So I thought how that would work, but to be honest, I've watched it carefully when I first got the car, reflections and bits and bobs, and it comes on at a pretty good time. It is sometimes not the easiest to keep the brake lights on over a smoother period, because occasionally you'll have to come off the accelerator, the brake lights are going to show, and then you'll use the accelerator to get yourself a little further forward. So when you see Tesla drivers in particular and their brakes are going on, off, you know what it's all about. I prefer myself to have a constant brake while I'm slowing down, because it just keeps that message clear to other people that you're slowing. If you're off it, people behind may think that you're going to continue again. So that's one little thing, but I've not used the brake since I've started. Now when you've got these type of situations, the meeting situations, in an electric car, it's absolutely no different than any other car, and most of the things that you do in an electric car are just the same as you would do in anything else, but there are a few little subtle differences. I'm not going to go in today any of the systems. I'm just going to stop this side of the crossing. I didn't again use my brake. I covered it, but I didn't use it, and again that little movement just to show people what's what. So most of the things are exactly the same. There's no big differences with driving an electric vehicle, but I want to just head up to a couple of roundabouts, because there's one point that I've found, and it's to do with this instant acceleration, that I would just like to point out. So we've got down to a 20 limit. Let's just have a little look at these scenarios. It's quite difficult when you are doing a slower speed limit to then show people, maybe like this blue one to the left, that you are continuing, but you can do that with your position, don't forget. Alright, so the sound at these lower speeds is really quiet. There's little road noise, but you can still hear it. I've actually been surprised on how much noise there is driving an electric vehicle. And remember, rather than staring at your speedo, try and tune your eyes into, tune your ears into listening to the speed rather than looking at it all the time, because if your eyes are down there, you can't see what these pedestrians are doing. Now this is filmed prior to the highway code changes, if they're going to happen on the 29th of January. We're a week or so prior to that at this stage, but it might be an idea that I visit a couple of things with this as well if I see any scenarios, so I might be doing that. So the first thing, roundabout wise, I want to talk about is how quickly the car is able to progress onto the roundabout, and that's a big help, a massive help when you're emerging, but you should still try and see your gap approaching. So I'm not sure about the blue car. Yes, I am now. They're going in that road. Always keep slowing down until you're certain. And the go can sometimes catch people out emerging from other side roads, and that's what I've found in an electric vehicle, that people aren't expecting you to go as quickly out onto the roundabout. I'll just give you an idea. I'm not going to try and go out particularly quickly, but if there is a gap, let me explain. Now I can go and, all right, I helped the white one out, and it was a perfect example that you can go so quickly and instantly in electric vehicles that you have to be super careful of other people emerging from the left hand side. I know I had priority, it's irrelevant. If your speed entering a roundabout and going into a roundabout is going to cause other people problems from this left hand side, you're doing it wrong. So you have to be mindful of that. So when you are choosing a gap, just like I did there, yeah, sound, use that power, use that instant torque to get you out safely, but then just appreciate that you may then have caught someone out from the left hand side who's not expecting you to go out that quick, so be ready to slow down again. Okay, the guy's all finished, no issues, approaching the roundabout. I'm going to go ahead, so I'm looking for a gap early. It's probable that I'm going to go. I'm just slowing a bit till I find out where the white one's going. Happy, off we go. No issues with the road from the left hand side this time, and that's all good. The stability control systems are pretty good in the Tesla, but it is rear wheel drive, so you have to be mindful of giving it the beans, especially on corners. It should keep you in check, but it doesn't mean that it's never going to spin you around. So nice and smooth and gentle. If you've seen some of my performance car, I drive like a driving instructor when I drove my missus's old M3. The application of power needs to be done in that smooth, controlled manner all the time. No worries. How have I found people treat me in a Tesla? It's better when I haven't got a roof box on, and no, this car, loads of people have commented that this car is going to be used for lessons. No, it's not. It's solely for the use of the channel. So no one's getting in this. I know there are a few instructors countrywide who use the Model 3. I don't know how you insure it, to be honest. If anyone does use one of these, please let me know how it's insurable, because this on an insurance level was actually more expensive to insure than my missus's old M3 for me. Not by much, but it was a little. Okay, we've got room to clear the crossing, no problems. Always give yourself that space. So next thing about an electric vehicle, especially these Teslas, auto hold. I know auto hold is a common feature on a lot of cars, but a lot of the electric cars do this naturally. It's dead easy. Does it make people a little lazy? Yes. I think eventually handbrakes or parking brakes are going to be irrelevant. Even in my new car, the driving school vehicle, the Golf, it's got auto hold, and honestly I haven't tested it with pupils yet, because as of filming from today, the car, we're stopping there, just keep an eye on the one behind in that scenario, in case you need to then go off and just deal with that stop, the closeness of the vehicle behind, by moving into the cycle area. For me, that's not an issue as long as there's no cyclists obviously in front of you, so you've got to be mindful around. I did use the brakes there. Speed is often the thing that gets you into trouble, but there are certain scenarios where you should be trying to get out of trouble using your speed, and this is a benefit of a car with a little bit more performance and instant performance like the Tesla. It gives you an opportunity to go. I've got parked cars up ahead, I've got vehicles around me, so I've got the option, if needed, to get going. I'm going to let the blue one go first, that's fine, and then you can easily manage your speed to negotiate space around. I'm constantly saying to people about trying to drive in a staggered formation. People don't do that enough, but I've found driving in an electric vehicle, that's much easier to do, because you can speed up quicker and slow down actually a little bit quicker without having to use that brake pedal, like I've explained. There's this guy going in front, he keeps going left, isn't he? As he just changed his mind again. So again, staggered formation, it's easy, and there's not going to be the majority of cars that are going to pick up speed as quick, and that's helpful, and that proves how important it is that the car to my right hand side in front was just easily able to just pull into the left hand side, no issues, no problems. So speed wise, I did find on the first couple of weeks of ownership that I was tending to outdo speed limits with the acceleration. Like I said, it is quite addictive, the instant torque, but hopefully when people do get in these electric cars that are quite quick, they're gonna get over that pretty soon, because I do foresee people just tearing around just because they can do. What's going to go on with the cyclist? Okay, that's one of the things in the new highway code. Did the car cause the Just Eat rider to slow down there? No, but if that was me in that Ford in front, I would have held back, let the cyclist continue, and then gone after. But it's from the perspective that I was in, which is the important thing. You need to be really switched on to that scenario, because if that car did wait in front and slow down like they should have done for the cyclist, I need to be ready to slow, and again mindful of what's going on behind. You haven't got that escape route to be able to go off and use a cycle area out in front of you like we had at the traffic lights with a scenario like that. So it's really important that you keep extra space. So there are no pedestrians, as far as I can see, wishing to cross this road. If there would be, you'd hold back. There's effectively two giveaway lines. There's one for the pedestrian crossing area and there's one for the road, and that's how people need to think about it. So acceleration, go, instant, get up to your speed, get on with things, not a problem. I'm going to go and test this car out on some hills a little touch further up. We've got not loads of steep hills in Liverpool. It's quite flat, to be honest, compared to a lot of places in the country. But I'm going to go and just see how the electric car performs on hills and whether it's easy. It is. I think you'll probably understand it is going to be really simple. But coming down steep hills is also something that I just want to have a little look at also. So not much going on. The car behind's keeping a good distance as well. Not a problem. What's the road noise like on the video? Does it sound a little bit better? I am mic'd up properly, so I've got a feed coming from the camera and I've got one on myself, and it's going to be this microphone that I'm going to be probably using. But is there noticeably less road noise when I'm doing these videos than maybe there was when I was in the Diesel 3 Series? Let me know. So what we're going to do, we're going to head a little bit further up, a little bit busier area, and then we've got some hills that we're going to go off and take the car up. So while we're here, again, no brakes used. Interestingly though, when you're off the pedal like that, the brake lights, I think, are showing. Is there any way around this? Well, there is. You could put it into park, but is that something that you would do? I tend to find myself not doing it. Just sit here. So am I dazzling people? Well, potentially. To be honest, although I do think of other people, especially at night, I might be tempted to put it in park a little bit more. I don't think brake lights are as much of a dazzle as people make out. Maybe There are some people who are a little more light sensitive, I don't know, but for me it's not a big deal. So no on either side. Use the acceleration, just looking at the jogger to the right hand side crossing the road. That's another thing as well. From a distance away, you have to be mindful when you're driving an electric car of the lack of engine noise, because it's probably the engine noise that this guy running is probably going to hear, probably more than road noise. So you have to be mindful of that. What I said about emerging out onto roundabouts may catch people out. If you're accelerating quickly, it's definitely going to catch people out as well. So we've got a reasonably busy shopping area, so I'm just mindful of that. Okay. This cycle lane to the left hand side, I'm just going to have a quick word about it. I know it's just disappeared temporarily, but just remember, a solid line surrounding any area is, don't go on it unless it's an emergency. Treat it like a curb. When it goes to a broken line, yes, you can if it's safe and you need to. So here, the Peugeot in front shouldn't be having its wheels on there whatsoever, so keep out of it. But if you needed to turn left into the road where the black Mercedes is, notice the lines, although they're rubbish, go back to a broken line. Now, we are shortly going to be turning left a little bit further up. We're going to go and have a little look at some hills. Just got to be mindful of the speed of this one. We're a little slow with the Peugeot in front. It is only one lane down here. The Peugeot is driving in the cycle area as opposed to taking the correct position in the road. And the Audi behind's doing exactly the same thing. It's not. It is safe. There's no one there, but it's not necessary, so you shouldn't do that. So I'm just managing this here. An early left signal just tells the Audi to maybe back off a little bit, and he's a little bit close now, so I'm just going to manage them. There's no pedestrians crossing the road, so we're all okay. Now I'm going to take the second left, this little one here. Let's keep an eye on the Audi as well, because if there was someone belting down this road, I wanted to make sure that that was done smoothly, and we're managing the situation with the Mercedes up ahead coming the other way as well. I'm just going to try and tell the Mercedes to come through into this space. I'm going to do my best to keep things moving, because that helps with efficiency. It also manages risk with the Audi that was travelling a little closely, and still is a little. So what are we going to do with the one coming down? Is it moving? It is slightly, but it can use a little bit just to clear. I'm just going to park in on the left, just to give people an idea of what we're talking about regarding hills. Alright, how was that situation regarding the Audi that's just gone and parked up there? That's what we've got to be careful of, especially going into these side roads with pedestrians potentially being there. We've got to manage situations like that. If you arrive in too quick, it's all going to go pear-shaped. So we've stopped on a hill. Again, didn't use the brake to do any stopping, and it's just stopped here comfortably. But again, I'm just mindful, if I am parking, I'll just put it into park, and then that shuts off the brake lights at the back. So even though that your electric car will just sit here, and it'll sit there all day, to be honest, just be mindful of those brake lights being on in certain situations, and it's a quick and easy way to do it a lot of the time. So moving off on a hill, piece of cake. As soon as you touch that pedal, it's going to be off and moving. So that instant torque helps you with situations like that. If you've got a panic over hills, electric cars just sort of just take that away. But you should always try and do your most, or your utmost, to try and keep things moving, even in these situations. Try and get away from thinking I'm going to get there and stop. You should be getting here, going super slow, and then doing your utmost to creep. Now I'm just going to hold back and just let this lady cross. That's quite alright. And like I said, get used to doing that, because it's how things are going to work in and out of junctions. By going slow there at that junction enabled me to keep things moving, and I can adjust my acceleration now to suit. So I did say that I was going to try and do a couple of bits on the new highway code, as well as just have a little mention about this this driving of electric vehicles. There's not loads going on today, to be honest. It's not the busiest, but hopefully these little things have come across. We've had a couple of nice examples, to be honest. I've got another steeper hill a little bit further up that I'm going to go off and get driving up, and I'm going to make my way down and come down as well. I'm just going to talk about going down hills in electric vehicles. Got a couple of points that I'd just like to bring up. So the road that we're taking, it's not this one, it's the next one. I think this is probably one of the most the steepest roads in Liverpool. It is pretty steep. I'm sure there's many steeper in different parts of the country. My phone mount's rattling. I'll talk about my phone mount in a second as well. So the van's left me plenty of space, that's all good. Cheers, buddy. So here we go, we've got a relatively steep one. It's no issue, plenty of torque, keep things moving. Especially in poor weather, is much better than stopping. If you stop, you then putting the wheels at higher risk of actually wheels spinning. I know the traction control systems should stop that, but it's more difficult to get going as well. So do your best to keep things moving. It's safe with people behind, it's more efficient, and honestly it shows a higher degree of skill as well. So I'm just going to head down this road. I'm going to come back down in a moment. I'm actually going to just turn this around in one of these little spaces to the left. Manoeuvring in an electric vehicle with auto hold can be a little different as well, because you've got to use your accelerator to actually move. And no, you can change the settings even on this Tesla as well, where it will creep for you. So just be mindful that there may be different things that you can do with the car to help certain scenarios. I had a situation with, I'm just going to put it in park a second and just talk about this. I had a situation with one of my lad's girlfriends where she was having a couple of issues parking, and it was because auto hold was on. And what you then have to do is touch your accelerator to actually get the car moving. This wasn't in an electric vehicle, it was actually in the Seat Leon hybrid that I did a little review on a number of months ago. And it may be something that you have to think of, is to turn auto hold off if you need to maneuver into a tight space, because then when you lessen the brake pressure, the car will instantly go to creep. And you can do that in the Tesla comfortably as well. Pedals and steering, and here we go. I could put it into creep mode straight away. So when I lessen the brake pressure now, I'm just going to do this. It's just on hold straight away, and that's sort of what I was talking about with the Leon, that it then fires off with you. And if you're doing some tight manoeuvring, you need it to the situation like this, where you can just edge and creep, and that's quite important. I'm just going to stick us back. And again, this is just on the brake pedal now. And it may suit your driving style if you've got these tight manoeuvring spaces to actually go in, if you put it into creep as opposed to hold. And we've also got a roll function on this vehicle as well. So be mindful of that, change your settings, embrace this technology, and know what each benefit is of using the car in whichever way suits. It's really important. Okay, sound. So what we're going to do, I'm going to head off. I'm going to come downhill this time, in the steep section, and this is where the hold situation of this car and the setting on this car is a benefit. It's going to roll away less, so you can change the regenerative effect of the car and the battery by doing this. Now, I I still have to use, it's a bit mad to be fair, I'm still having to use a tiny little bit of gas just to keep it going, because there is a car behind. So I'm just gonna pull into one of these bays on the right just for a little second. Don't overtake me, thank you. So it was a little strange, that sensation of coming down the hill, because the car will, I'm going to try and demonstrate this down the hill, the car still will come to a stop if I just come off all the pressure, but it was a little strange actually using my accelerator. But as long as you're gentle at the start and use your pedal in a progressive manner, it's not a problem, it's not a worry whatsoever. So let's have a little think about what I've just talked about. Again, sod's law, there's a car just behind me. So what I'm going to do is, I am going to park in on the left and make sure they're going to come round. Come on. Now I'm off all the pedals. And it's not got quite enough to hold. Oh, is it going to hold me to a stop? It's trying. It did. Took a little while that time. So don't rely on the effect of that regen to slow you down obviously as quickly, because you're coming downhill. So notice as well, when you do get a different car, it's quite important to discover these things. And I haven't driven this much. I think it's only done 700 miles and I've done a couple of road trips in it already. But you need to find out how these systems all work so you can operate it to suit each scenario. And that's it's quite interesting on a hill, I think. But I am a driving nit anyway, so might bore you to death. Anyway, let's get going again. So you may need a little bit more brake. Down the steep hill, it was important that I slowed quite early so it didn't scare the white car coming. Not a problem. And off we go. There you go, an instant torque. So, are there any questions that you've got of driving an electric vehicle? I'm going to be doing a fair bit in this car with the systems. I'm not going to be talking about the screen or any of the operational side of things, because I think it's a big distraction. If you've noticed, I've touched very little while I've been driving. I don't think you need to. I've looked very little at it. Like I said, I've used my ears to manage this speed, and try this yourself, even with your own car. Try it on roads that you know, but a trick that I tend to do with my students is I'll get a cloth and I'll drape it over the dashboard to cover the speed up, and just put your ears into effect and make sure that you're a little bit better at managing speed with ears. Doesn't get you there any quicker anyway if you break speed limits 9 times out of 10. So practice, have a little go at it. We need to get a culture and a mentality from more people who are happy sticking to the speed limit and don't feel pressured by people behind, and try not to. If people want to overtake, let them overtake. If they're on the horn, if they're flashing the lights, press your save button on your dash cam, send it in to me, and then we'll have a little bit of fun sticking them on the channel. And we've got to try and change this mentality. I'm not trying to mock people in this way as well, but when people see themselves acting that way or see other people acting that same way, there's a better chance of education working and things being fixed. So recognise that behaviour in yourself. So that's the whole idea. So when you're pressing that button on your dash cam, like I said, it's not for sometimes the reasons, or when I push that button on the dash cam, it's not for the reasons that sometimes other people use it for. So help us out in that fact, and that task. If you do see anyone kicking off behind, send us the footage. So I'm going to do a left turn here. We've got a few little things on the drive and the way back in. There's no big issues behind. Just want to keep an eye on that cyclist as well. No, they shouldn't be going through that red light. No, I'm not going to go on the cycle area. However, just going on to the cyclists, not many people realise, I'm just going to put it in park, just so then I don't dazzle people behind. So this could be a scenario that you do it. It's a quick and easy job to press the brake and put it into drive really quickly. So, like I said, mindful of that. But cyclists jumping red lights. Now, I know this is it's a hotly debated topic, this one. I don't agree with anyone breaking rules. However, most people don't know that occasionally cyclists will not trigger the traffic light sensors. I've been there myself on a bike. There's a little junction near me, there's a cycle track that I tend to use, and the last half a mile on the road back home to mine, there's a junction, and especially through lockdown over the last couple of years, when I was riding there was not many people about on the roads, and quite often I'd be sat there for 10 minutes because these traffic light sensors did not pick up my bike. So people need to be a little bit more mindful of that situation. What are these cyclists meant to do? They're meant to just sit and wait. Now, I'm not saying you should jump a red light, no in the world, but I honestly think people are a little het up on it. Yes, there's a big part of this if cyclists recklessly go through red lights and then a motorist kills that cyclist. That motorist has got to live with that for the rest of the time. But I think people are wrapped up that these cyclists do jump red lights and we would get done for it in cars. Well, yeah, rightly so, we're going to kill people. But I know I've just mentioned about the cyclists and it would affect the motorists, but to be honest, I think us motorists, we are wrapped up with these cyclists jumping. If you see something like that, if it didn't affect you, let it go. At the end of the day, they're putting themselves at risk, and there's little thought for the fact that if people are killed, it affects not just one person, it affects everyone. So try not to let it get to you, just let it go if it doesn't affect you. And that's a lovely mindset to have with many things. I used to get wound up, you've probably seen it on many videos even years ago. I used to get wound up with people on how they treat learners. Honestly, nowadays I've sort of like adapted my mindset to deal with that in a little bit better way. We're trying to educate, we're trying to get things a little bit better, but is it going to happen quickly? No. Are we going to be able to instantly push a button and get all cyclists not jumping red lights? No. It's just that education. But just remember what I've said about those traffic light sensors, because they don't always work. What we need to do is look out for problems. I've found, and it's classing them into a group, and they're not all like this, but I've found some of these delivery riders to be absolutely awful. Whereas the person who's going out doing some training on the bike and using it just for pleasure rather than a job, I tend to find those people are a little bit better with the rules. Let's see what this guy does. Nice job, perfect. And again, I'm thinking brake lights are possibly on, so press my button, put it into park, and sit and wait it out. So all good. Just be a little bit more thoughtful for everyone. That's what the new changes in the highway code are all about. Going back to it, remember, if you're doing a left turn, tell you what, I'll do a left turn a little bit further up. When you're doing a left turn, you have to be wary of these cyclists coming up now. Cyclists also need to be really mindful that, as we've seen already today, with the car turning left near the other delivery cyclist, maybe they should have waited. Cyclists have got to be appreciative that drivers aren't going to be onto this straight away. It's going to take a while. It's going to be a change of mindset over a longer period of time, and cyclists need to do their bit as well to not put themselves at danger. I'm trying to cut road deaths full stop. I'm not just saying things from a motorist perspective. Yes, I know now cyclists have got priority, and rightly so. Let's clear, let's get out of the way, and that's important to be able to do that. The only issue that you've got is sometimes people are then gonna follow me just because I've been able to do that. They'll then push past the cyclist. You need to give them room. But I hope you're understanding what I'm saying regarding the cyclists coming through on the left, that cyclists need responsibility, and this is outlined in the updated highway code, if it has been ratified by the time this has gone out. It's really important that cyclists are responsible for their own safety as well, because honestly the level of drivers on the road isn't very good. Wasn't signalling because it could have meant two things. The position was good enough, no cyclists, pedestrians. That scenario is a funny one. She's crossing a junction there. It's not traffic light controlled. She's got no ability to stop the traffic, so her and the pushchair and the kid in the pushchair can go across safely. What do we do in that scenario? Well, don't forget these updates in the highway code regarding the stuff with pedestrians do say the word should. So there may be a scenario where you decide that it's not safe. It's sort of like the advice given to let buses out as well. We should, and just because we should doesn't mean that you can just ignore it. If you've have that mentality and that mindset, that needs to be tweaked as well. That should is a way, it's a get out if it's unsafe. So there's still a responsibility for that pedestrian to cross the road safely. There's a responsibility for me to try and follow the updates to the highway code. In other words, I should have let that lady across, but because downhill, perhaps, maybe there's vehicles behind, there may be few scenarios where you decide to go through if that lady is staying put. If she's walking and she sets foot on the road, she's got priority. We've got to give way. Now, again, you've got to be mindful of these people behind. So there's plenty of new decisions that we're going to have to make whilst we're doing this stuff with these updates. So hopefully highlighted a few. People have asked me as well, where do these electric scooters fit into the hierarchy? Honestly, that guy, absolutely brilliant. Love that. That's superb. Was on the road, decided he wanted to go around the corner, so he dismounted and walked it round there. Absolutely brilliant. So we went from probably the cyclist sort of category into a pedestrian. Perfect. And honestly, we're all humans. If he's more at risk, treat him accordingly, and that's the easiest thing to say. Even the electric scooters that aren't legal on the road, I know it's a debacle. I'm not getting into this conversation either, but the electric scooters where you can hire are legal. The ones that you just buy yourself aren't. But we're still all human beings, and it's our job to look after our fellow humans. So if you see someone, even if what they're doing is illegal, it doesn't give you the right just to then go, well, they were doing the wrong thing, I'm going to go off and make the situation dangerous. And people do that. Now this has turned into a little bit more of a rant than a drive like a driving instructor. However, hopefully there's a few things that are of use. Now my mount, it does rattle, it's doing me head in, but the reason why I've got it is not because I need to be looking at my phone every 2 seconds. It's a possibility when I'm travelling to different parts of the country for ZapMap, so I can maybe even plan my route through ZapMap, because it's not something that I can then pass over towards the Tesla system. So there's compromises with every vehicle that you drive, and you've got to adapt and change what you're doing. So excuse the rattling if you can hear that rattling. So this scenario with the pedestrian, no, she has not got priority. It's not at a junction. She's not crossing at a junction. If she was crossing there, if I was coming in or out, that's different. But where she was, no. So people aren't going to be able to just randomly just start walking across the road any differently than they do at the minute. If they do set foot on the road and they're looking to walk out in front of you, yeah, and again, they're doing the wrong thing. But we can't just have that mentality of I'm in the right. Okay, electric vehicles, I've done a fair bit just round town with this, and this is the big benefit of electric vehicles. They are really efficient doing this type of stuff, really good. They get much more range in the towns, so it could be a part of your decision whether or not that you get one. I enjoy driving this. I think it's a nice relaxed experience. The one pedal driving doesn't take long to get used to. Just keep an eye on the Renault, a little bit of movement wherever roads could cross. It was always likely just to dive in, so again, think about what I did with the use of my speed, backed off, reduced risk, rather than just ploughing into situations, which is something that I fear for people in these electric vehicles. Adjust your position, adjust your place on the road to try and be at a gap. So just let the black Nissan Duke just glide past, and we're all good. This scenario is classic of what I was saying with the power and the instant move off ability of electric vehicles. We've got two roundabouts close together with a pedestrian crossing in between, and you think on how easy it would be to get from the start of this roundabout to where the crossing is. Remember, with the crossings nowadays as well, people don't have to set foot on the crossing for us to have to give way if people wish to. We need to stop for them to scan early. The other thing that I've got a little bit of a fear with electric vehicles as well is because of that instant shove. People do have a tendency to just stare to the right hand side when they're emerging, whether it be out of a junction like this or on a roundabout. They tend to stare just at the traffic that's moving, and the power of these things is just going to mean they're going to get to the problems on the left hand side that they haven't seen a little bit quicker. So there are things about electric vehicles that you've got to be wary of. I think Tesla drivers are starting to get a little bit of a reputation as well. So I've gone there out of the frying pan into the fire, I think, by getting rid of my BMW. They are not at a junction, so you don't slow down and give way unless they set foot on the road and wish to cross in front of you. Okay, and pedestrians, they shouldn't do as well. You should look for a safe time to cross. So again, it is highlighted clearly in the highway code to be responsible for yourself and your own safety as well as others. So this blue one's coming past, slight little reduce. It's not an issue, we're both going to be at the lights together, so it does make a little bit of a mockery of why people want to overtake. But you fix it yourself, you be the better driver and manage their lack of adjustment. But I hope that's been pretty helpful. If you've got any questions, please do ask them down in the comments. Maybe the Tesla specific questions, I'll do my best. I'm still quite new to this car. Like I said, I've only had it a couple of months. Still learning things. I've learned things today about the downhill, the regen braking, and it might not be enough to stop you on certain steepnesses of hills, although that's probably the most steep hill and road in the city. I'm sure there are places probably near where you live, unless you live out down near one of my old stomping grounds, Peterborough, and out that way in the Fens. There's not many hills around there, but there may very well be hills near you that you will have to again adapt and change what you're doing. Just think about what we've said about using hold function, or I'm just going to get gone with this one. You can use your acceleration to get yourself out of danger as well. There was always an option to back off there, but again, out in front, not a problem. So yeah, just remember what I've said about either using hold or creep in different scenarios. It might not just be just a preference. I've got a preference to use the hold function, but it depends on your style of driving and what's best for you. But change it to the scenario. Not many people do that. Think about this driver that's just gone past me there. They overtook. They were probably just in their own little world doing their own little thing. This guy and the dog, no issues there. Slow early, keep things moving. All good. So yeah, if you've got any questions, stick them down in the comments. Thanks a lot for tuning in, and I hope to see you soon.